and we're recording another episode.
Again. Ooh.
Danny and Troy
Recording.
show.
I always feel like I'm standing in front of the mirror. I guess I am.
Okay.
You're my mirror, Troy.
Okay.
So mirror away. That's good. Where's your 50s shirt? You don't have a 50s shirt? No, you're Mr. Fashion. Even the drawstrings are fashionable.
Are they?
Man, yeah, they're like checkered. What you got on?
This is my Bhutanese
Friends?
Yeah, 4 friends.
I can't see clearly. What are they?
Well, that's a classic story in Bhutan. The elephant, the monkey, the rabbit, and the bird, and this tree. So yeah, the monkey's on the back of the elephant, the rabbit is on the head of the monkey, and yeah, the bird's on the top of the rabbit, and they're getting the fruit.
Ah.
And yeah, they're 4 friends, so one passes it down to the other, and they're talking about how much they love that tree, and the elephant's like, oh yeah, I have known this tree since it was as tall as me, and yeah, now look at it, it's grown so much. And then the monkey's like, well, I've known it longer than that. I've known it since it was tall as me, and I'm shorter, so I've known it longer. And then, of course, the rabbit says, well, I've known it even longer since it was as tall as me. I've known it. So I'm closer to the tree. And then the bird says, well, I've got the best knowledge of this tree because I actually pooped it out. And that's how
I knew that was coming. Okay, very good. I like it. Always have an interesting story, Troy.
I'm not sure if that's the official story, but that's how my friend told me it once. And, well, actually, it was the first time I heard the story. He said, this is how the story of the 4 friends, because there's pictures of him. There's actually a big statue when you get to Thimphu, the capital city.
Yeah, I remember that now.
Right. Yeah.
I thought it was a traffic cop.
Yeah, it's built in the big center of a roundabout. But yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay. Flashbacks, memories. Okay, so we'll pick up with, before we turn the camera on, folks. We were talking about an adventure that Drupal is going through. If we can just go back for just 2 steps, where what Drupal, which I'll finalize, maybe not today, but we'll see how it goes, because we're going to be talking about the conclusion that Drupal has reached for all of this mind-bending stuff that he's been torturing us with, right? And you can thank me for writing it down, because he's tortured me too, is an attempt on his part to overcome desire, right? And we were talking about how things happen coincidentally more often than not, especially with you and me. Got rid of the cat, didn't you? All right, good.
I'll show the viewers what a little distracting in the background. But...
yeah, there must be a lot of flies there, I should do one like this in the south.
Oh, yeah.
Go this way.
That'd be more useful.
Or like this, right? Anyway, we can have all different kinds of cats. So, in Drupal's desire to overcome desire, and really, and I'm stealing from a YouTube video that I'm not watched on Zazen. I'm not really stealing from it, as I am feeling gratified. Not that I planned all of this stuff, because I'm sort of like water skiing, right? Actually, we were scuba diving, went down to about 60 feet, and now we're kind of at the point where we've surfaced, we followed the anchor chain up, took off our wetsuit, and we're water skiing, which I like, by the way. I'm one of those guys that when they're in the boat and they always go around the island, you know, and I'm on the outside reaching like, I don't know, Mach 3. And then when you hit, I don't know, a little wave about that big, and you just and they come back around to see if you survived, right? Yeah, my memories of water skiing. And that's kind of like actually what Drukpa's going through, because in attempting to have no expectations, he is diffusing what he thinks is the body of expectations. And he's trying to leave the body, as it were, and discuss into his process a couple of ways in which he can leave his body. He's talking about the subject of death, that there is no death, it's a fallacy, because death is principally, doesn't exist. A little like God doesn't exist, and therefore they're eternal, they're immovable, and so on. So we went through that last time. And this Zazen explained one other thing about Drukpa, and as the monk was saying, that there is no need for him to be a good boy. And so he goes through that whole process of admitting that he's not a good boy. You know, he's cursing the foundation of his family, his country, his church, his philosophy, and trying to deconstruct it, I believe, and end up in a place where he can draw a conclusion on his hard-earned travels from the beginning of this whole exposure about the Kraken, right? Because in some ways, Drukpa is his own Kraken.
Sure.
Right? So I hope to finish this. And if not, then there'll be one more before I take a couple of days off and sort of reorganize, look back and see where I've taken myself.
Okay.
So let's see how it goes today.
Great.
Okay?
Great. Yep.
All right. Board. Okay, here we go. It's entitled, There is No External Authority. It seems that Drukpa had reached a conclusion. Freedom is fundamental, even before God or nothingness. If it were not so, God wouldn't have had the freedom to create. Freedom is fundamental. So God is secondary. You make decisions for you. That sort of does away with law and converts it into a mere suggestion. Enforcement is threatened to utilize pain as an incentive to avoid non-compliance. Those who are charged to inflict pain are of a special breed. Enforcement. Force is not an acceptable means of persuasion. The right to be free required a lot of a human being. A measure of stability, a sense of self, foresight, unlimited by contemporary life, a quest into the unknown, a lack of attachment, were all required before one could see beyond one's limitations. To escape oneself into limitless exploration of where one is capable of going. Drukpa's mother, Anita, was a very competent woman. She had one fault. She wanted to be recognized by others. Others were not where she was in her quest for the eternal. Her latch was in her previous husband, a man whom she had met after the war in Germany. She waited to rejoin him after her death, or whatever she was doing between times was a mere passing of the time. Her mechanism for regaining her love match was in kindness and patience with what she had been given. Acceptance. Attempting to enter into judgment, which is to say forgiveness, was her lifetime achievement. Prior to her death, Drukpa hadn't understood this. His present wife, a Russian, had reminded him of a pagan holiday to celebrate the coming of spring, known by a name that associated butter with the sun, Maslenitsa. Masla, Russian for being butter, signified sunshine, was liberally applied to pancakes, was in concert with fruit, caviar, marmalade, and many other additives. The time of year was somewhere around renewal, in shucking sin, darkness, or inactivity, or what have you, in welcoming the fresh start. In doing so, forgiveness or forgetfulness was a necessary accompaniment in letting go from the other side any and all holdings that might hinder the completion of renewal, such as hatred, resentment, retention of harsh feelings, and the like. So, a vehicle against resentment, the main component of slavery according to Nietzsche, would be set aside, at least in pretense, to allow for the carrier's journey into the unknown of a renewal symbolized by a springing back to life of the forces of nature. Such a thing was accomplished in a leg up of ritual and poetics whereby one asked for forgiveness by any other for actual or comprehensive misgivings one may have perpetuated against any other in the course of the last year by reciting a historic request for forgiveness, which was answered by an, of course. And if the other were to forgive them, then they would be repeating the request and therein requesting them of the same. It was rather quaint, but added to the spirit of the occasion so one could enter the season of renewal with light-heartedness. It reminded one of the joke about a mass murderer who moments before death accepted Jesus as his personal savior so he could enter into the kingdom of heaven as clean as a whistle. Drukpa responded to this common ritual by objecting to his presumed position of one who acted in a superior fashion of granting forgiveness for offenses, which was at best presumptive, if not pretentious, by offering an alternative of accepting an other for whom they were. He had no basis for judging himself in comparison and chose to avoid the matter of him having committed any offense against any other by simply living and going through the process of life as best he could. It never happened, except by Drukpa. What a phenomenal person Anita was, a survivor, always on top, always shrugging off the disappointment of seeming defeat as a momentary setback, a time for her to recollect herself and get back on her feet like the cat she was. She had weathered war, famine, alienation, transplantation, horrible accidents, cancer, and latest of all, a terrorist for a husband. May God roast his soul in eternal hell and damnation. She did her best, but it took its toll. With the Osama bin Laden of a husband, with betrayal by her son and daughter, finally got her. She could not do what she wanted to do because of a breakdown in her physical body, not her mind. The eldest son found his redemption in having the medical examiner absolve the treacherous acts of her Osama bin Laden, a natural reaction to dealing with his condemnation of standing in defiance to his demand as a pretendian or Lumbee tribe of Robeson County, North Carolina, and all the shit that was supposed to carry with it. Drukpa looked forward to being with her again. He would have gladly gone with her to her new phase. Since Anita's transformation of life, Drukpa would never fear anything, seeing how Anita had gone before him. He became fearless. But he had always been so, but now more so than ever before. He licensed his mind to follow his mother into the next phase, only hoping that she had not ventured so far ahead of him that he would not be able to catch up with her. But energy was energy, and he would learn that what was not, he would learn what that was, not by what was told him, but by what he would find out for himself to ease his own transition in much the same way his ancestors looked at the distance between this life and the next as the breadth of a hair, or so it seemed. How to stay in touch was equally as important as seeking the generative powers of transformation from one state of being with its inevitable next in a constant and yet never changing, only appearing transformation. What he had set for himself was in his assigned task of controlling all the money in the world. It was an energetic answer. In fact, any and all transformations of energy would be one and the same, and his knowledge of that transformation would be the key to all of the workings, and not just to the one, but to them all, regardless of their appearances. If energy was everything and everything was energy, why would he do anything else? Why would he seek answers in the field of the material? Money was symbolic. Money was not money at all, but a symbol of value. So why bother with money? Why bother with money itself, but with the symbol? Attack the symbol. Energy was the gateway to the symbolic, whatever the form.
Great.
So, there we have it. Our adventurer, our Don Quixote. As he travels to, like Jonathan Livingston Seagull, right? He travels the far reaches of the universe without ever leaving home.
So, yeah, I feel like he's on this aspect of when you think about something so much, or you put so much energy into so much, and then it just, whatever people, I mean, call it burnout, or people call it, you get to a point of where things just clicked or cracked, or whatever word it is, that then you have to just accept. So, I mean, there's a lot in there of smaller messages and points that I think are awesome for me to realize and to come to. But the overall aspect is that I guess it's like the in spirituality, I've had two major camps. One is like you have to gonna go after it as if you're a drowning man. They go, that's one of the things, like seek it as if you're a drowning man. And the other is like, okay, accept. Don't do anything, just accept it and be in there. But I think there's a kind of mixture of both, because he can be seeking it like a drowning man, but then he gets to the point where he's so exhausted that he just has to do nothing but accept. And that, I think, comes into what you were talking about with forgiveness and the rituals, and it's aspect of it's not really forgiving, and it's more of accepting everybody and everything as they are. Whereas, in order to get to that point, kind of, I don't know why, but for me anyway, my personal experience, you forget about that, and then it's like I don't remember until I'm so exhausted that there's nothing else I can do. Except it's just the acceptance. And it's so obvious, but at the beginning you, I don't know, have all this energy to spend and you want to just get out and do things, and then if you do realize it at the beginning, there's a lot of things that I guess will happen in the world, but being a part of it and bringing you up with experience and just that aspect of going at things like you're a drowning man, grasping for air that is already there. I don't know whether it's good or not, or I mean, it's just what me, for personal experience, it seems what I do, and I can see myself in the story. I can see relations in certain aspects of, this is what I feel about that. In fact, I see the benefit of this whole series of what we're going to do with it, and I see the potential for people to listen to it from a space that is just that, accepting, no expectations, but to use it as if you can actually get through the whole aspect of all the content listening. I mean, it must be about at least 20 to 30 minutes each session. But this is what I see. The beauty of that is, the practice of listening and the example of creative writing, and just let it kind of in some ways be absorbed by your unthinking mind, and then write and let things come for you. So what I see it being as, an example of what we want others to do in the experience of creative writing. And this is kind of a trigger. This is kind of a baseline or an example of what to do or how to start, or if the process begins and you want to learn about creative writing, here is an example of, and listen to Danny Teal's readings from the start to the beginning, from the start to the ending, and then if you can do that, then we know you're on the right page. If you start listening and you go, I don't understand what it's about, or what's this character, where's he now, and then that will happen in your mind. You'll start questioning, what's the benefit of this, or where is it going? But yes, that will happen. Allow those things to happen and continue, and to let it just come in, because like I've been saying with my kind of recaps at the end of each one, there are really some fundamental and core value aspects and really grounding ancient wisdom coming out of these pieces. And that's, up to the person to, and it's what I'm saying, it's for me right now, it may not happen for everybody, but I can see them. And this is kind of an experiment. We're looking at seeing what sort of reactions people have with it, but we're looking for people to, yeah, experience it and give us feedback, and let's discuss it. It's an open icebreaker for conversations, and the main aspect we're looking for is expanding the capability or possibility or opportunity of creative expression for everybody.
Yeah, I think you're right. And let me just add something here, is that in my recent introduction to Zazen, right?
Yes.
I think the emphasis that this monk in the video was making was that, you know, the different Zazen, according to his master, requires nothing, right? He principally is saying, don't do anything, just sit, you know, because when you're striving for enlightenment, you're still doing something, right? You're still desiring something when the whole idea is to overcome desire. Now, that's kind of frightening, like that story I was telling you about, you know, ethics class, when I asked everybody in the class to allow themselves to believe what this ethic was saying. And some people just absolutely refused, you know. They were on pins and needles. I guess they kind of thought that Jesus would come down and, you know, snatch them up and throw them into the fires of hell if they allowed themselves to think something other than, you know, what was required of them, right? Not to be cajoled into abandoning your faith by people like your ethics teacher, right? And in Drukpa's process, we, I think, go through various stages of his attempts to achieve some enlightenment, right? And to believe that he had to come to a conclusion, right? Instead of just sitting or just being. No, he's racking his brain and his body and everything, trying to come up with the right answer. When in fact, the answer may be there is no right answer. You don't have to do this, because if you're seeking enlightenment, well, you already have expectations of what that is.
That's right.
But in Zazen, it's like, don't think anything. He said, just sit there. You know, he said something about do nothing. Right? Just do nothing. And I don't know a lot of people who can do nothing. Certainly, I'm not one of them, you know, because I know that when I have nothing to do, which could be its cousin, you know, I get really nervous. I start condemning myself. I'm never going to make it, you know, which is a continuous process. It's not, you know, you don't stop at a stop sign, get out of the car because you made it. It's like, no, we're not there yet. And besides, what you came for is no longer there. So you have to stay on, you know, on your toes. And the best way of doing that, at least in Drukpa's experience, is to allow this stream of consciousness that he's going through, to allow it, not to fight it, just to accept it. And that has proven particularly difficult for him, principally because he has an objective, right? And many times I think, well, does your objective go away when you state it? It's like saying, I got the winning lottery numbers, right? They are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and number 6, the Powerball is that number, number 6. And then as soon as you do it, you can feel like something evaporates from you. That great secret that you were holding close to your chest, because you weren't going to win anyway, right? Because they'll tell you what the odds are. Right? And it's like, why are you putting such a store in something that you desire so heavily, when in fact, as has been, you know, a story of my life, is that the best things in life are free, like the saying says, right? And that things happen when you least expect them. all of the wonderful things that have happened to me in, in shorthand, which I just say, okay, I was this, I was that, I did this, I did that. I never planned them. They just came out of nowhere. You're calling me, Troy?
Not me.
Troy Sadowski is calling.
Wow.
It is right there.
Oh, no. Alternative universe.
Here, I'm going to shut this little sucker down. All right, Microsoft, Skype, whatever. I know what's happening. It's a revolution. Zoom is saying, hey man, what's going on? How come you're not using us anymore? Did I do something? And it's like, no, you did nothing. That's perfect. Just do nothing. And it's going to happen anyway, I believe. It may not happen the way you thought. Well, let me rephrase that. It will never happen the way you thought it was going to happen. Right? And by the time it's over, you can, slyly look over your shoulder at other people and say, yeah, I planned it. Yeah. It's like, you liar. No way you could have planned that, because it wasn't planned. And that's okay.
Sure.
And somewhere along the way, Drukpa has come to some kind of a conclusion about going through all of this agony that he has put on himself, right? Ends up with a very, very simple answer, which he probably could have concluded without having gone through all of that torture.
Sure.
Right,
Wow.
which I think is what the monk was suggesting on the video. It's like, don't do anything. And I mean, my first reaction is, well, how can I be successful when I don't do anything? I think there's a difference between not doing anything and not doing anything, which we won't get into.
Yeah, I think it's not doing anything and doing nothing. There's a difference there. You can not do anything, but then that's different to do nothing. We're in the context of that Zazen.
Yeah, it's I think the basic idea is doing what you are doing.
Well,
right?
Yeah.
And that would almost take out any direct reference to desire. Right? Just I read once a long time ago, and it never made sense to me. And I see people actually trying to do it, and it was like, okay, this is Zen, man. When you eat, just eat. Right? Just keep eating. I guess you want to think about eating and put all your concentration in eating. And I'm thinking, okay, well, I can't do that, because as soon as I start doing that, I start wondering if I'm chewing properly, or should I be separating the food into both sides of my mouth so that I don't cheat one side, and then it goes on from there. Maybe I'm just, a little nuts in all of this, but I'm living and I'm letting myself go nuts, which is something other than what, and I'm not talking about other people, what I may have expected of myself. So there's this whole now I'm getting to the point where I don't even want to use accusatory terminology with myself. Here's what you're doing. It's like the problem I have with my friend is, they'll say, here's what you're doing. And my answer to them is, how do you know? How do you know that's what I'm doing? Tell me, please. Because not even I know what I'm doing. It's like I'm riding on a beam or something. Like this joke, you've got these two guys in an insane asylum, and one of them comes to the other one and he says, hey man, look what I've got. And he says, flashlight. He says, oh yeah, I got a plan. He says, tonight When everybody's asleep, I'll shine the light down to the ground. You climb down on it. And then when you get down there, I'll throw it to you and you shine it up and I'll crawl down. And the guy says, no way, man, I'm not doing that. He says, why not? He says, because if I know you, you'll shut it off halfway down.
Yeah. Good.
Kind of like the scorpion and the frog, huh? It's my
There's
nature.
actually a story around Drukpa Kenli, the Bhutanese interpretation and tradition where, yeah, I'm not sure if it's him or a monk that he knows walks on a beam of light from the sun. A beam of sunlight comes down and he walks down on that. But yeah, no, I love the aspect of everything that we're saying, and what I see it is it's really it's challenging to do nothing, I feel, because we've got such a complex world, and you know, we're motivated, we're interested, we're curious, but there is this space, you know, monks talk about it, you know, ancient religions or current religions have their ancient philosophies built on it, and this movement or whatever of spirituality and things like that, and seeking enlightenment, you know, it's always there and it has been there for a long time. And I'm really interested in it as a personal development process. And what I've seen or what I've experienced is like, it does start with doing nothing, kind of. I mean, still today, you know, in Bhutan, monks go and sit in a cave and they shut off the world, you know, it's dark, the senses are deprived of things, and then they can get into that space of doing nothing for 3 years and 3 months and 3 days and whatever. But you don't need to do that. You can just sit on a chair and try and do nothing, and just, you know, meditate and get into a space or observe. And, you know, if you can do that, then it can take you to the next step, which actually is doing something. And what I love about creative writing is because it's space, it's kind of, when you're in the flow, you're in that meditative state. You can actually be doing something, which is letting writing coming out, whether it's typing on a keyboard or just, yeah, using pen and paper. So it's kind of less, it's still attached to this doing nothing space. And then if you can practice that and learn that and then move forward with that, then you'll find yourself, you know, walking down the street doing nothing. You'll find yourself going to the grocery store and buying things or having a conversation, but still doing nothing, doing your job, programming a new software system, but still you've got a little piece attached to that nothing.
Sure. It's like you're doing nothing because you told yourself you would do nothing. So you're still doing something that you told yourself you would do by doing nothing, right? Instead of just doing nothing.
That's right. You can still do things in the space of nothing. And this is what that Zazen video that you sent me, that we'll probably put a link in the comments for everybody else, is at the end talking about the whole world is happening right now. He was using an example of a wind blowing a bell, and the bell making a sound, the sound traveling through the air into somebody's ear, and somebody's ear interpreting that with their mind, and their mind saying, okay, that is the ding of a bell. It's not the mind that is the source or making that sound. It's not the wind. It's not the bell. It's actually everything that's combined as one that is making that bell sound. And that's what we're in. That's the space. And if you can,
so much for if a tree falls in the forest, right?
Does it make a sound? Yeah.
There's no one around. Does it make a sound?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I don't know. Ask a bug. Oh, what was that? Oh, I heard a tree falling. Fell on you, didn't it? Yeah, it's funny, because people, I think we just get tangled up in language.
Sure.
You
And that's the other
know,
challenge.
it's like, I guess, what philosophers do and what politicians do,
Well,
and they should just stop. They should do nothing, right? Because they
uh,
make promises, obviously, that whether things change or they're just a bunch of scum, that they can't keep, right?
if I can,
So
yeah,
I would
refer
like to
back
run. What's that?
to creative writing again, it gives that freedom of being able to use language. I mean, language is limiting in some ways. And yeah, we can't attempt or, I mean, expect to really grasp what it is we're talking about using language, using sounds that are coming out that are in one particular language of multiple in the world and, being interpreted or listening to one by one other person. But with creative writing, it doesn't matter. And this is what you were talking, I believe, about, whether it was yesterday or the day before, the parables, why Jesus talks in parables, why he, sets up stories, why he says, it's like getting, walking a camel through the eye of a needle. And that comes with creative writing. You get the freedom to say anything, to write anything. Yes, you won't be, well, it's really difficult to write what we're talking about down, because what you do once you write it down, it's already out of the space that we're talking about. But it's, yeah, writing creatively doesn't need to make sense. In some ways, it makes sense to me more on that soul level than it does on my brain level.
That would seem to me to be akin to automatic writing, right? You just, I can imagine, sitting on a train,
Yeah,
looking over at someone sitting near the window, right? And they are so lost in thought
sure.
as they're writing. Maybe they're writing a letter. They're transforming um, a memory into language that cannot recreate the moment that they're writing about, but it can somehow, it goes through them
Mm-hmm.
and ends up, well, we could say, as a script
Sure.
for the movie that somebody else will see once they're reading it.
That's right.
Right?
Yep.
Fun, fun, fun. Whoa,
Okay.
how interesting. Okay, I would like one final comment, and that is, I think that Drukpa has some desire to has a okay. How do I say this? Drukpa will write about desire, and I think that'll be like putting the top back on the ketchup bottle, right?
Sure.
And
Yep.
so I don't know where that's going to go, because this whole process, and I really do hope that it would be of service to other people as well, to know that you're not looking at a perfect person who is writing a perfect script. I'm doing what I can with what I have at the moment, and I'm
That's all we
not
can do.
so accomplished that I just, even though I'm working on it, can sit down anywhere I want. And I've got, a lot of space around here I'm developing with different kinds of feel in
Mm-hmm.
lots of different places, place
Mm-hmm.
where I can sit and the cat can come and, lay on the ground beside me, which she does quite often.
Mm-hmm.
Or, I've taken this place and turned it into like 100 different studios, right? So you can write in 100 different places. I call this place Art Farm, because farm in the sense that it grows stuff, it grows work, it grows expression. And there are little places all over here where you can be in nature, you know, that therapy, depending on what your mood is, you know, and as I develop it, I become more and more attuned to the ultimate place, which will be, you know, the one that I create in the ultimate studio, right? Somewhere here, which have big glass sliding doors and, you know, AC and wood burning stove for the winter and that kind of stuff, you know, because I think the best writing atmosphere for me is rustic.
Okay.
Rustic.
Okay.
Yeah. Either that or a coffee shop.
Sure.
Yeah. Seems to pull the most out of me.
Right.
Okay. Good.
Great.
So I'll address desire, and then between now and then, tomorrow, see what I can do about, and you too, of course, it's an invitation for you as well, to figure out where we go from here.
Sure.
Analyzing for 5 minutes what we just did and where it fits.
Exactly.
As we, you know, embrace desire again.
Exactly. Great.
Or maybe we'll just, I don't know, like smoke diffuse into the air. Like, did anybody see that? What? Joy and Danny show. Never heard of it. What are you talking about? Right? They just evaporated on their way across the cosmos. So then maybe we'll be able to have a clean Skype recording for YouTube tomorrow.
Let's see.
We'll see. Huh?
We'll see. Yep.
Don't mean to express any desire. When I was in Hollywood, I discovered runes, and the instructions of the book that came with it was have no expected outcomes.
Right.
That's pretty good. I like that one, right?
Sure.
We'll work on that one too.
Nice.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Troy.
Thanks, Danny.